Check. Check.
current events members, and we invite you to stand for the pledge. Last week on February 17th. He was an American civil rights activist, LGBTQ rights activist, politician, and ordained Baptist minister. He was born in Greenville, South Carolina in 1941. He helped to organize sit-ins and boycotts. Most famously, he led Operation Breadbasket, which boycotted companies that refused to hire black workers. He also stood beside King during the Chicago Freedom Movement, which was against housing segregation. He also created Operation PUSH, which stands for People United to Save/Serve Humanity. This organization pushed businesses to hire more African Americans. Mexican cartel leader known as El Mencho, who was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, was killed on February 22nd, 2026. El Mencho was a former police officer and led one of the most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations. This was conducted by the Mexican military with some extra help from U.S. intelligence. He was also killed in the operation were a prison guard, an agent from the state prosecutor's office, and an unidentified woman.
Since then, violence has broken out in multiple states in Mexico. The cartel has set buses on fire, blocked roads, and had conflict with authorities. The U.S. State Department urged all Americans in Mexico to, quote, seek shelter and remain in residences or hotels until further notice. Several Mexican states also canceled school and urged locals to remain inside because of the cartel's violence. Several airlines canceled flights, leaving many Americans stranded until violence subsided. While the violence has largely subsided for the moment, there is concern that it will flare up again as gangs compete to fill the power vacuum left by El Mencho's death. All right, Winter Olympics. So the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics concluded this past Sunday, and Norway led with 41 total medals, but the U.S. finished second with 33 total medals and 12 gold medals. This is the most medals the U.S. has ever won in a Winter Olympics, and women actually held 60% of the medals won. The U.S. men's hockey team beat Canada with a game-winning goal by Jack Hughes to secure gold for the first time since the Miracle on Ice in 1980. And the women's hockey team also defeated Canada in overtime to win gold and get their first win since 2018. The teams have never won in the same year before, so this was a big first for us. The U.S. figure skating team also had a very successful Olympics with the whole team winning a gold medal. This was thanks to Ilya Malinin, aka Quad God, Alyssa Liu, and the ice dancing power couple Chalk and Bates. Alyssa Liu also won individual gold in the women's free skate, which is the first time an American has won in over 24 years. This comes after her prior retirement from figure skating when she was just 16 years old to focus on her mental health in school. And finally, there were many other great gold victories in freestyle, speed, and alpine skiing, and another important record set by Alana Myers-Taylor, who became the oldest woman to win a Winter Olympic medal for the United States. The 41-year-old topped the podium for the first time in the women's monobob after 5 previous Olympic visits. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Soli.
I'm Macy.
And I'm Lola. And we are all seniors in mock trial. The GPS mock trial team has had an amazing season so far. Out of 4 competition rounds spread across 2 weeks, the B team won 2 of their trials, and we have a special shout out for the individual award winners.
So, if you want an award, stand up when we call your name.
Yeah. For best witnesses, we had 2 winners, Caroline Williams and Audrey Gibbler.
Then our winner for best attorney on the B team was Elle Bowles, who actually won twice. Now, can the whole mock trial B team stand up for some applause?
The A team currently stands undefeated, winning all 4 rounds of competition this month. A team, could you all please stand up for a round of applause? Congratulations to our team co-presidents Soli Cuter and Macy Poole. Soli won 2 Best Witness Awards and Macy won Best Attorney all 4 rounds.
Alright, so the A team will be moving forward and competing as defense against a homeschool team in the division finals this Monday night at the Federal Courthouse at 5:15. So you guys can come watch if you want.
If you see them in the halls, please wish them luck and come down to the courthouse on Monday to show your support. Thank you!
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you have had an awesome week. Can I have a little shout out for Miss Swanson? I'm not sure if she's in here, but she organized the food truck event today, and it was amazing. It was so cool and the most beautiful day to have it on. I don't have any more announcements, so at this time, I would like to welcome to the stage our chapel speaker, Cece Mantell.
Wow, it's right up here. To begin, I'd like to thank the first few rows for being constant in my life. You all, in one way or another, have shaped it for the better. To D&D Club, you're all so wonderful and silly. Thank you for being patient with the world building I put you all through. To the tech group, both middle and high school, thank you for your work. No matter how big or small your contribution has been, you're always doing something admirable and important. Shout out to my rat. You're going to have a wonderful time here. And just remember to keep your head up and try every new experience you can. And same goes for my advisor, the 10-piece chicken nuggets. Stay strong and make decent choices in college. Okay, anyways. Thank you to the Legacy Esports team, which has since disbanded when all the members scattered throughout the United States of America. You are essentially my adoptive family, and I'm glad you still continue to be in my life. And finally, thank you to my siblings, Lucas and Karina. You're truly the people who keep me going, and I couldn't be more proud to call myself your older sibling. All right, let's get started with some psychology and development. As children, we all undergo significant mental changes at a young age. From the ages of 4 to 6 years old, a mere preschooler, we become socially aware, coming to understand that living beings other than ourselves also experience wants and needs. This then transitions into the realization, as a now 7 to 11-year-old, that everyone has different thoughts and ideas of what they do. Finally, that child learns to plan and create, thinking about the future in logical and illogical ways when they step into the world of middle school, making it just a class as the final bell rings. Whether or not you're consciously aware of all this, at some point we all undergo the realization here that everybody is fundamentally different. Every single person here has their own inner world and plan, an idea of what their future wants to look like. So, if my 7-year-old self saw who I was today, would she see that I'd become the person that she always wanted to be? The answer to that, of course, is no, we're simply different beings. She has yet to realize what life truly means. And it feels just a lifetime ago that has passed since I felt like putting my littlest pet shops through full-blown bakery crisis in my room with a little narrative. Wow. But that's one thing that's never changed. No, not the Critters or Bakery Crisis, but that element of storytelling. Storytelling is probably one of the most important influences on development, as it teaches us the fundamentals of being human. It's been long before writing, and its verbal dictation just exists to serve, to teach lessons, preserve history, and entertain the masses, which is what they did for me, as the first time I created something notable was in first grade during a morning service, something I took part in upwards of 3 times a week at the religious school I attended at the time. This meant 3 hours of routine boredom each week, which was far too many for a 7-year-old to endure. So, to cope with the boredom, I would slip into a daydream where a giant lavender dragon would swoop through the roof of the chapel, fracturing the plastic ceiling into bits, setting the highly flammable carpet ablaze. My hair would be longer, wavier, with a short sword at my hip as I would jump into the scaly back of my new friend and escape the collapsing, non-ocean compliant building. So, yeah. But the sad thing is my teachers and mother claimed that when I talk about this to them, they claimed that I had an overactive imagination, wow. But I knew it was my fixation on all 12 of the How to Train Your Dragon books. Yes, there are 12. If you want to read one, talk to me, I have all 12 still. That was just my fixation at the time. So I continued to keep reliving the same scenario over and over each week in chapel. I think most of us can relate to this, not wholly the chapel experience, but creating imaginary worlds or scenarios, especially as children. But none of us have really developed that sense of realistic rationality yet. We were all still absorbing the vast world around us, trying to find a sense of who, what, where, when, and why we are. And that's probably what makes it so unrecognizable to us now, that sense of childlike whimsy. So, the next notable thing I made was when I stepped foot into GPS. The first time walking into this room when they sang, "All of this together." You know, every one of us has been through that experience. That was a huge shift in both culture and location compared to my old school, and that was incredibly terrifying and mortifying. So, instead of making something out of boredom, I instead made something to provide a stable foundation in this new city of people. Picture this. A dynamic duo known as Cyan and Lime were born. They were originally just a classic hero's tale, one where evil always loses to the power of friendship as it overtakes the darkness, very a la My Little Pony. But over time, through different scenarios, I was able to give them a more compelling story, one where Cyan gives up her autonomy and joins the villains, being tricked by their leader into believing that this is the only way to save her true friend and keep him safe. But in retaliation, Lime begins an epic quest, forming a rebellion to get his one true friend back. Through trials and tribulations, as each learns to survive the world alone, they eventually meet on the battlefield, each on opposing sides. Yet, all Cyan and Lime seize each other, and together they break the mystical bond keeping Cyan indebted to the evildoers, reuniting in the dusty rubble of a place that was once home, a place that could be built anew. Their fantasy notably shifted as I grew up. COVID, friendships, fights, passions, hates, Undertale, they all changed the tides. But something else did as well. So, you see, a key part of a child's mental development that I left out at the very beginning takes place between the ages of 5 to 7, when they learn the irreversibility of something that most fear, death. It takes even longer to grasp what death fully means, and even longer to realize that it's something we all must face one day. So, around the same time I was developing Cyan and Lime's elaborate universe, early 7th grade, my mother was diagnosed with ALS. For those who do not know, ALS is a nervous system disease that paralyzes the person with it by damaging their motor neurons over the course of a few fleeting years. There is no known cause and no discovered cure either to this. So the emotions, experiences that I was having surrounding this condition and permeated into my stories every day turned into a tightrope act, quietly balancing school and home life as well as my imagination. And my stories began to lose their heroic logical endings, becoming increasingly realistic, and fractured the fragile barrier between fantasy and reality. A couple of years after a diagnosis, a week or so before I donned my green uniform for the first time, I woke up to a soft knock on my door and a side hug from my dad. With no words, I'd realized what happened. My mother had passed away. And somehow, the world kept spinning, even though my biggest inspiration, but also my biggest critic in life, was gone. So I began to take a larger interest in technical theater as well as D&D, as I felt apprehensive to create things on my own. I knew that everything I would imagine would probably reflect past year's events, something I didn't really feel ready to confront yet. Though, through these joint experiences, new notions took shape, and slowly I've been developing them. Through their best of times and also yet the worst of times, now rushing their stories or along to teach a lesson or entertain, or to cope or comprehend anything going on in the world. But but something I can develop alongside myself in my own time. Among these stories, my favorite is probably a Wild West fantasy I like to call Balderdash. Everyone in Dungeons & Dragons is very familiar with this. Anyone who I've talked to for an extensive time is very familiar with this already. It's a tale which takes place in the late 1800s, around the start of the Gilded Age of America. Sorry, A-pushers, I just triggered you. And it revolves around a small New Mexican settlement called Dustmore, a settlement controlled by vampires. Their leader, a ferocious woman named Cora du Carmont, who desires to cure all her people's weakness to the sun. However, she does so by capturing an experimental medical scientist named Vitrol, a man who willingly accepts his own punishment in exchange for laboratory equipment and a position as her right hand once the cure has been discovered. Vampires, however, are not the town's only inhuman inhabitants. While many are treated as equal, some are not, and Lilith, the town's sole mortician, is one of these beings. Secretly, a type of were-coyote, she watched as the townsfolk hunted down other lycanthropes every full moon like clockwork, wondering when she may be next. So now, after this backstory portion, I take you to the true start of this narrative, where a stranger quietly makes his way into town. He has been running for years, only having one thought on his mind, finding the true killer of his girlfriend, Miss Molly Eleanor Boyd. The characters' stories end up intertwined in unimaginable ways, from the stranger's eventual assimilation into the settlement, to the discovery of Lilith's curse, to the eventual successes and grand failure of Cora and Vitrol's scheme. They all eventually meet up, and as their stories intertwine, as the stranger discovers that Cora's family played a part in the assassination of his lover. But they weren't the ones to do the deed. Instead, it's revealed to be the part of a very business deal with Peter Morgan, the stranger's very own father. Yes, devious, I know. This realization brings the four main protagonists together as they realize all the pain has not been caused just by each other, but by the world's twisted biases which have been hammered into society for generations upon generations and into their very own beings. So this is probably one of the most complex things I've dreamed up yet, like just in general, the sense of characters and also setting. But it's also still in development as I take in new experiences and inspirations and write them into the ever-thickening plot. The hybrid combination of both fantasy and reality in this story, and also many others, as well as logic and organized world building, is something I find so incredibly interesting. And while stories don't require any of these things, logic or otherwise, it's important to remember not to discredit any of your past notions. Your ideas are a map, acting as landmarks you can use to look back and see how much you've changed, how much the question of what do you want to be when you grow up has shifted over the years. We're all different than we used to be, all having undergone and eternally going through significant changes, all with our own stories. And so, I encourage you to share them, no matter how silly they may be. Thank you.